85% white, 15% Negro. A big textile center, Gastonia calls itself the Spindle City and the City of Growing Beauty. It has a good record of race relations.
We move 881 miles south to reporter Ed Scott.
This is the Cane River, on whose banks the city of Natchitoches, Louisiana was built, Ed. It's the oldest town in the Louisiana Purchase, having had its roots in 1714. It's traditionally and culturally Southern in mood. It has a population today of 12,000 persons, almost half of whom are Negroes.
The Negroes of Natchitoches are distinguished by a controversial statue in the town square, erected in grateful recognition of the arduous and faithful services of the good darkies of Louisiana. Otherwise, the almost 6,000 citizens of Natchitoches observe the normal relationship of white to Negro. Like Gastonia, it has a good record in race relations. This is the Supreme Court of the United States. For 165 years, its sacred trust has been to rule on and interpret the law of the land as embodied in the Constitution. Equal justice under the law. On May 17, this court ruled unanimously that segregation in public schools was not legal. See It Now devotes its entire half hour to an effort to reflect the opinions and attitudes of certain persons who live in Gastonia, North Carolina, and in Natchitoches, Louisiana. There is no such thing as a typical Southern town. We selected Natchitoches and Gastonia because they reflect communities in two distinct parts of the South. We start with Dave Gillespie of the Gaston Citizen.
Our greatest need at the moment is level-headedness. Whites of the South should not panic. Negroes should not whet their impatience. It is impossible for the South to turn back the clock and undo the injustice that was done to the Negro when he was brought into slavery. We cannot wish him away. We cannot close our eyes to his presence. The matter of educating the Negro is only one facet of the question, but the manner in which we handle it, under the principles of the Constitution, will set the pace for the solution of other phases of the so-called Negro problem. In a day when many nations and races are looking to us for leadership, to peace, and to freedom, we need to reflect in our own country the traditional American virtues of justice and fair play. All parts of this country, not only the South, should do some real soul-searching in this respect.
Next, Cade Dixon, who runs the Gastonia Bank of Commerce.
Frankly, I'm troubled. I had hoped for a decision of the Supreme Court that would be something in the nature of a straddle. I was opposed to Earl Warren being put on the Supreme Court for several reasons. I thought that he did not have sufficient judicial experience, and I was satisfied that he would not be sympathetic with the Southern viewpoint. Now, while this decision was unanimous, yet the Chief Justice masterminded it and rendered the decision. North Carolina, in my opinion, has the very best of race relations of any southern state, and I would hate to see that disturbed. The thought in my mind is that a proper solution, the correct and best solution, would be arrived at not by revolution but by evolution.
Gastonia has a white high school and one for Negroes. This one is for whites.
We have been seeing in our newspapers an era comes to an end. Our court has said that the doctrine of equal but separate public school education has no place. What do you think about this decision, Jane?
Well, our parents are more against non-segregation than we are, but the young people are actually the ones that have to live with them, and we may as well adapt ourselves to it now.
Well, I don't feel exactly that way about it. I think people in Gastonia during the past years have gotten away from this purely segregation business, because right now on our city council we have a colored man on our city council here in Gastonia. And but I don't think that, I think maybe I'm like most people down here. We don't react to things being forced down our throats like this. It's entirely a different thing, see, than other than working it out yourself.
Well, I feel as the majority of the Southerners do that this decision is like a cloud coming over our Southland. But I think in time our colored citizens and white citizens can work out this problem, and I think it will strengthen America in the end.
When I learned of the Supreme Court decision, I was disappointed because I'm a Southerner. I was taught to be respectful of the Negroes as they were in my home, and I had a maid to bring me up. But I was not taught to socialize with them. I think if we, since the Supreme Court has given this decision, they will gradually go into our homes, our circles, and our church. And if this has to be done since the Supreme Court has given this, we are going to have to do it slowly, because it is such a different way of living. It's going to affect everything that we do.
Well, Miss Underwood, being a native Georgian, I'm very much against non-segregation. I feel that the Negroes certainly deserve equal rights as far as education in schools are concerned, but I'm against the Negroes and the whites going to school together. I think that we as white people have developed an air of superiority over their race, and I think it would cause for a split in both races if they mixed and mingled, because some of them couldn't come up to meet our standards.
Well, my opinion on this issue would probably be different from the others here, because I have had experience in going to school with the colored in New Jersey, and I have lived up north, a lot of my life. And I think that if the people down here could see just how well the colored and white get along in the school in the north, and if they could adapt themselves down here like they are there, I don't think there would be any trouble, but it would take a while for the people down here to adapt themselves, because we aren't used to anything like that.
We still have many people in the South who have the opinion of separate but equal rights, separate but equal privileges. I think that probably that opinion is out of date. By that I mean that during the earlier history of our nation, we had aristocracy. We had a definite line of demarcation as far as the races were concerned. I think the Southerners have progressed to the extent now that we can approach this decision and this question as open-minded individuals, and I think we must do it that way, or else we will never solve the problem. That old opinion, that old school of thought is out of date.
This is Highland High School on North York Road.
History tells us that we have much to remember if we were to study American history. There are a number of events that the American people can never forget. To mention a few, the discovery of America, 1492. The Dred Scott decision, as handed down by the Supreme Court, and the Proclamation of Emancipation, and perhaps during your time, the development of the atomic bomb. On Monday, May the 17th, Chief Justice Warren read the decision of the Supreme Court justices, which ruled out segregation. I am pleased personally at the vote that was handed down, a 9-0 vote. It proved that the American people are thinking, that our statesmen are truly living up to expectations, that they are basing their opinion on our religious beliefs, basing their opinion on democratic living. Suppose now we hear what ideas you have on the Supreme Court decision.
I like the Supreme Court ruling on segregation because I think that we as Negroes can get a broader education and can advance farther than we have in the past. And one other important reason is as the communists cannot use this as propaganda against the democratic form of government.
The segregation laws were created at a time right after the Civil War when there was intense feeling against the Negro.
when the whites had only thought of the Negroes as working in their house and so forth. And you must realize that it must have been sort of hard for them to get used to someone being accepted as their equal after working for them, and something as though a cat or a household animal or something that you expect to see, but there's no great love for. And these laws are old, and they were created by people who had nothing to do with this modern civilization of ours, and they are altogether outdated.
I'm pleased with the issue that segregation has ended. But for myself, I would not like to attend the schools with the white children because of the fact that we aren't welcome. And I think that the consequence will be a mixture of Negroes and whites. But the consequence will also be an embarrassing situation for the Negro.